picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back. It's Tuesday. I didn't get a blessed thing done yesterday, at least not on the modeling sphere. But as you can tell, I am spending my Tuesday morning trying to get my ducks in a row. And here they are. No, I've been spending yesterday and today getting the 3D printers back up and running. It's been a long while since I've done anything of any sizable volume with those. And while the little photon cranks these out, well, one every 10 hours or so, cranks these out like a charm, I have been fighting with the bigger one to get it to get back into fighting shape. Now, I have neglected it all winter long, and it is wakening it up for the spring and summer printing season. It has not been easy. I've had to go back and basically relearn everything that I thought I remembered, and realized that this resin is not working in the big printer, so I saved this resin for the smaller printer, and going back and recalibrating with the regular resin for the big printer. But you don't need to hear any of that. That's all inside baseball stuff. So I'm figuring I am waiting for my next big project to come in the mail. It'll be probably at least a multi-week project. So that's coming in the mail. I don't really want to start anything too intensive in front of that. So what I thought I'd do is I'd pull out a couple of one-day builds or two-day builds, a couple of them, something I could fill out the week with. And that brings me back to, of course, this Hulk that's been sitting on my desk or on the table for a good number of weeks now. It's mostly done. I just need to make myself ready to finish it. And this is going to a couple of good friends that I need to pass this back to them at Wonderfest, which is coming up in less than a month. And oh my God, I got to get ready. So that Hulk is job one. And I figured at the same time I would pull this off the shelf. Now this is, because I'm on a vinyl, stand up, on a vinyl kit kick, this Hulk being vinyl. This is Horizon, I believe, is the company that makes this. And this is a Billiken company. This is the Billiken Laser Blast creature. Now, the very special story behind this is, this was given to me by the one and only Steve Neal. Now, Steve Neal worked on Laser Blast. He was, in fact, in Laser Blast. He created the Laser Blast weapon. He also played the alien at the beginning, who is fried by this guy right here. So when Steve Neal says, would you like this Billiken alien, I would say, you bet your ass I would like to have that. He had sculpted his own versions of this, and of course he's remade the gun on his site. That's a fascinating project. If you ever want to check that out, just look up Steve Neal on Google and you will find him. But this has been languishing on the shelf for a while, and I figured it was a good time to go ahead and get it painted. And the only problem with this Billiken vinyl kit is the very odd pose that it's in. It's meant to be looked at kind of on profile like that, but just trying to stand it's kind of odd. So I'll be working on these two vinyl kits this week, unless my ship has come in, and it's easy to grin when your ship has come in, and you know the rest of that rhyme. And then, in which case I will switch gears and go on to that. But I think what I'd like to do is to carry these guys further to completion. Now, there is a brown alien and a gray alien, and I think I want to do the gray one, only because the brown one gets all the love and the gray one you never see representations of the gray one. So I think I want to do the gray one, and it has silver gloves. I may even want to scratch build a gun for it. I don't know. The gray one had a long rifle, so I may want to do maybe a strap, and strap it to its back or something, and then I can make it more stable by nailing it down to a base, just a little plaque like I did last week. But to do that, I need to get a coat of the vinyl adhesion promoter. It's actually a vinyl paint that you get in the at the auto paint store that lets you gives vinyl more teeth to let paint stick to it. So let's do that. There is a fair amount of gaps on this, but this is faithful to the Dave Allen stop motion puppet. There's only one seam that I really want to work on, and that is this waist seam, because that's a bit too obvious. The rest are hidden, like in the hips and in the shoulders, and you can live with that. You know, that's an obvious line, so we can live with that. But this one joint at the waist, I want to do some putty work on. So I figured while I was at it, I would go ahead and go for broke. I have a third vinyl figure here, and this third vinyl figure is a Screamin' Company vinyl Stormtrooper. Now this was part of the Drew Huffman estate that really he had started it, and it couldn't be boxed up for resale, because while all the parts are here, it was something that he had started and then kind of abandoned. We've all been there. You start a project and then you kind of walk away from it. Well, what I was able to do was take the parts and strip them back down, put them in a vat of the stripper, and like I said, all the parts have already been cut away and already started to be trimmed. So it's not something that I have a lot of say-so as to what kind of condition it's in. I'm trying to push it together and make something nice out of it. One thing that it does teach me that I'm going to have to do is I need to do something about the posture on these feet. I'm going to have to soak this thing in some or put it in some boiling water and kind of spread the legs out here a little bit so that it's standing the way that it needs to stand. But to do that, I've got to soften it and reposition it. Some of the cuts that Drew made in this are clumsy. Sorry, Drew, but they are. And I don't know how well it's going to go back together. So what we've got basically is an experiment here with 3 different vinyl figures in different stages of completion. Hulk here is mostly done. I just need to do some fine work on the face, and he'll be ready to go. The Laser Blast Alien, I just put a coat of primer on, and this Stormtrooper, while you may not think it's going to be complicated because it's all white, I think what I'm going to do is do it in a nice high gloss. Of course, I'm going to have to spray that same vinyl primer on it, but I probably will go with a almost in a white epoxy finish to get the white armor on it. So it's going to be an interesting experiment in these 3 different figures. Okay, I've spotted some immediate problems with the Stormtrooper here. The trying to get the arms in any sort of position where they could physically hold the gun is going to be an issue. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Get the camera all set up. Okay, we've got arm in about as close as we can get it on this side, which puts the I'll look down the shoulder here, which puts the hand out that way, and the gun, the rifle, the weapon of choice is going to go something like that. Now, this is definitely the old days of resin casting. Bubbles Galore, not just a great name for an exotic dancer, it also describes this resin. So to make that gun fit, and looking down the shoulders here, I'm gonna have to cut more of this area away of the arm, plus more of this area away of the armor on the chest here, so that I can line those 2 hands up. And I probably, actually what I think I'm going to do is see if I can soak this wrist, or soak this arm into some hot water to where I can bend the wrist a little bit so that it's not straight out from the arm, but just a little hair in, so that I can cheat that angle just a little bit more. Okay, that was shockingly easy. You'll remember that this used to go, oh, come on, where's my camera? The wrist used to have the straight angle to the forearm, and by warming this up, putting it into some very hot water for a very short amount of time, I was able to bend it in towards the chest, and then I just ran it under some cold water while I was holding it in that position, and that froze it and locked it in where I wanted it. Now I can put the gun in his hands with just a very minimal amount of sanding up at that shoulder, and now everything fits quite nicely. That was a very handy thing to have learned. Now I can go back to, once I know I've got the final gun in position, or rifle in position, I can go back to adding some of the detail back to it. Originally it was like a hard cardboard detail, and that's just nobody's friend. So that all came off when I stripped the paint off of this. All of that cardboard came off, so some of that can be redone in just little strip styrene. But now I can glue the left arm into position. And I'm using something different. I'm using this Super Weld, JB Super Weld, that's got a light on it. It's an UV activated glue. It's the first time I've used it. I have pluses and minuses about it, but since I can't find my 1 minute epoxy, this might be taking its place. Okay, I was just doing a bit of research online about this rifle as to how it should look, and I had the silly scope on backwards, which might be consistent with how bad Stormtroopers actually shoot, or the accuracy of the gun. If you have the scope on backwards, that certainly doesn't help. But I've seen this, from what I can tell, this is so wildly inaccurate that it doesn't really matter anyway. It's only an indication of what a Stormtrooper rifle might look like if one were to make a model of it. But it does tell me the important thing, which was how far up the handle went. I had it somewhere back in here, and it needs to go all the way up to there. So that's going to tell me everything I need to know about the placement of the other arm. So if this sits like this now all the way up, then the other arm goes all the way out to the end of the barrel, which is actually where I wanted it. So that's a yay. Let me see, pull all of this back to here. Yeah, that puts the hand right about there. So now I can position this other arm. Lovely. Alrighty, now that I've got both of the arms in their final position, I'm kind of liking the Super Weld glue, but it's kind of clumsy when you glue something and then immediately have to turn the applicator around to shine the light. Because you want to put the cap back on the glue and then flip it around and do all that one-handed. It's not as easy to work with as you would think. But we've got the gun now in hand. We've got the legs out from the... Oh, I'm going to have to move the camera for this. Okay, maybe you can see the whole thing now. We've got the legs, which I had to turn upside down and put into a big big kettle of boiling water so that I could pull them out far enough and level them and flatten them on the ground. And then once I did that, I quickly pulled it out, filled it with cold water, and sat it down and held it into position. Propped a little block in between there to keep the legs spread out, but then let it sit with cold water. And now we've got the top ready to go on, and I want to get all of these seams taken care of and glued together before I put any primer or paint on them. But the thing I need to do really is to get the seams glued together and then pack them or sculpt them in with some epoxy sculpt, and then give that I don't know, at least more than likely overnight to dry. So I'll move on to something else while I'm waiting for that to cure. But it's going to sit something like that. And I'm not going to glue the head on because I want to take care of that separately. But it's going to look something like that when it's done. Okay, I've got the top and the torso and the pelvis all joined together. Let no man bring them asunder. And then the gun will fit something like this. And the helmet goes on like that. And it's nice. It's a nice little kit. I can stop dropping the gun and, you know, doing more damage to that. I sincerely hope that the Aves people have their booth at Wonderfest this year, because I am getting sorely low on my epoxy sculpt, and I want to be able to pick up another couple of tubs from them this year. But now all I'm doing is making some little snakes out of epoxy sculpt, and I'll use them to fill in the soft parts of the armor here. The black, well, we end up being painted black anyway, but the soft parts of the undershirt that will fill in the gaps around the shoulders, and there's a gap around the back of this armor here that needs to get touched up, and I think there's a couple gaps on the laser blast alien that I want to do while I got the putty out. So nothing but to make some little, well, like I said, let's make some snakes and press them into the joints. That's a little much. Get the old sculpting tools out. Love me some Aves. Gots to have it. People ask what's a good idea to have in your basic work kit, your basic tool kit, and you can't go wrong having some Aves epoxy sculpt. This is not a commercial. This is a full-hearted recommendation. Back, everybody. It's Wednesday. No, you have not been thrown back in time. I pulled the Lazarus ship off of the completed table and put them back on the work desk because I wanted to touch up a couple things that were still bugging me. Well, I put felt on the bottom, which, you know, it's just something that you do. But this was bugging me. I've glued down the dome, the bubble, and I've included the silver accent for the front of the window. And all I need to do now is push it back against the dome and tack it with some glue to keep it in place. And then I'm going to glue the whole thing down, or epoxy the whole thing down to the base to make it a little bit more stable and easy to travel. So what I've got to do is bend that back in place, tack it with some glue, and tape it so that it stays there while it's drying. So then you get a bit of tape. I just want to put one tiny little, get that ready, one tiny little bit to hold that back in place. And what I'm going to use is some microcrystal clear, because I like the way that it dries against this clear material. As you can tell, the printers are still printing in the background. The larger printer is thwarting all efforts to become a useful thing. I don't know what it is. I have to drag it down to the ground and rebuild the thing. I don't know. Meanwhile, the small photon has been cranking out ducks every 10 hours, and I have got quite the duck factory going with it. But that's the distracting noise you hear in the background, the fan. So what I want to do is, see, using my new toothpick dispenser, very handy. I want to get some microcrystal clear, but I want to dilute this. I don't want a big glob of it. And I'm going to just brush some on the end of the back of the dome piece, or the, let me see if I push that in place, put something down the bead of it. And then I will try to wipe it down with a wet Q-tip to minimize the amount that's actually going to be on the dome. Then I can touch the silver paint after it's all dried. So let me take this and pull it back, trying to avoid that star. There, and now we're going to let that dry, and we're going to see how well that works, and I'll let you know. I just made a startlingly good discovery. Well, it's only a discovery if nobody else has figured it out, but I tried out my brand new glue, which is this super weld with the UV light. Touched it on this, and it worked beautifully. It doesn't take near as long to dry as microcrystal clear. Doesn't have the same issues of fogging that a CA would. And it was thin enough that I could hold this in place, run the tiniest bead down behind it, hit it with the light, and Bob's your uncle, we've got a frame. That's beautiful. So now what I'm going to do is let that cure for a bit. I need to mix up some epoxy so that I can set this down in the epoxy and get it cemented to the base physically, and then I'll come back in with the silver paint and just touch the tiniest bit of paint, touchy paint there. So yay, good things are happening. Alrighty, this is the paint that I'm using for the Stormtrooper. It's from Rust-Oleum. It's called Appliance Epoxy. Luckily, it comes in gloss white. I think they also make it in a black. It's basically appliance touch-up paint. I've got the body out in the other room drying. I'm going to go put a coat on the head now. And the thing about this is, though, it does take longer to dry than your normal paint. So I need to let it sit for the rest of the day, and then I will see what needs to get touched up this evening before I turn in, and that way it'll have all night to dry, and then tomorrow I should be able to paint the detail in. And here's the helmet with the first coat of the epoxy on, the white epoxy on it. One thing I will say, though, it does send up a cloud, so it settles back down and you can feel it in your arm hairs. So I need to go clean myself. I see I've got some, looks like I've got some droplets happening. That's because that was out. I stood on the porch and I must have gotten a couple of sprays from the very light rain that's happening. So we'll see if those could be sanded down. Looks like more of them are showing up. That can't be right. I hope it's not a bad reaction between the paint and the primer, but we will see. Okay, getting ready to put some base coats on the Laser Blast Alien, and this picture, of course, comes from the Steve Neal website. And this is the one that you normally see, the more terracotta colored brownish orange with the gold gloves. This is the guy I'm painting. You can still see he's got some of the light browns, but he's more brown with I would say a silver highlight, or a light gray highlight, and he's got silver gloves. That's the guy I'm going to paint. You'll still see the dark eye, you'll still see the dark nostril. I think a lot of the detail might show up even a little bit better on this, but you can see he still has some of the orange underpinning. And I don't know, I'm speculating that what might have happened is that they made two of this guy, and then they thought that might have wanted to do something to differentiate them a little bit, so a light gray coat was put on this, so that you could, when you saw the two of them, you weren't fooled into thinking you were seeing the same one twice. You were seeing two different aliens. So this one's got a blacker eye. This one, if you don't mind the fly, has a redder eye. But I think this is more along the spectrum of the way I'm going to go. So I think what I'm going to do is start by putting on this brownish undercoat, and then put the silver on top of it. Morning, everybody. It's Thursday. Welcome back. It's the gateway to the weekend. Welcome back to sunny North Carolina, where just as soon as the governor lifts restrictions about where you can go with and without your masks, we decide to have a gasoline shortage, so you can't go anywhere anyway. The idiocy of people really starts to get under my skin at my age. You're hoarding all this gasoline like you're going to be able to use it. Well, anybody who's ever seen The Living Dead, or Walking Dead, knows that gas goes bad after a while, and I hope they enjoyed taking the fuel from everybody else. Anyway, that's my soapbox. Working on the Stormtrooper this morning. Now, I painted this with the appliance paint, and the hardest thing to do was to put it aside and don't touch it for a day, because it takes a long time to dry, but when it does, one of two things happens. A, you get a very good, very durable, nice glossy finish. And the other thing that happened, which was an ugliness, and I don't know exactly what caused it. I got a little bit of onion peeling stuff going on in here. And that was not where you would expect it. I would have expected on the base coat between that and the primer. But no, those came fine. That was like the third or fourth light dusting over top. So that was a coat over another coat of the same paint. So I thought that I was, in the clear after the first coat when nothing onion peeled or elephant skin or whatever you want to call it, onion skinning. None of that happened the first time around. So I thought I was great. I was in good shape. But that happened, like I said, over the course of the later coats. So I'm going to live with it, because in the grand scheme of things, I paid nothing for this kit. It was, something I had just got to put in the stash that, see here, you can see some really nasty stuff happening. I might do some weathering. I was originally thinking this was going to be a pristine Stormtrooper from the Death Star, brand new armor and all that. But now I think I might want to make him a trooper that's been in the mud or something. It's got some dirt on him. In which case I can just, camouflage those spots. But the nice thing about this paint is if I get any black, which is what I'm doing now, putting the black accents in, if I get anything on the white armor, because it is a high gloss, high shell of a paint, I can just take a wet Q-tip and just wipe it off and dry it, and it comes right back off. It's beautiful in that respect. But since most of the damage on this, the paint damage, seems to be on the back, I'm really not going to sweat it too much. But that's coming along. Let's see. The Laser Blast, I got the brown on it yesterday. I'll start putting the gray coats on it today. And Hulk is mostly finished. It's probably the furthest along of all of them. I just need to steel up my reserve to do the teeth and the eyes, and he'll be done. Okay, so I've just been doing some dry brushing over my little reptilian friend here, my little turtle head. I think I'll call him Mitch. But he is coming along nicely. It's not all that complicated of a paint scheme, but you can see the brown undertones are still there. It's just I'm going over top with a gray. And of course the secret is to do it in many passes, each one more successfully or successively drier than the one before it. So you're only picking up the highest of the high spots with it, and going from there. Now I'm going to set this aside. And no, I'm not going to set it aside. I want to do a base coat on the gloves and the boots. The base coat of the silver on the base on the boots and the gloves, and that will point out or give them more contrast, point them out a little bit differently. And I might even go in and put some base washes around the eyes and mouth to darken those up. But between that and painting the details on the helmet of the Stormtrooper, we're coming along quite nicely today. Hopefully next project is in the mail. I got confirmation. It was lost for a few days. That's why I basically backed up and started doing these figures. But it is back on track and should be delivered today. So we'll see if the internet is telling us the truth or if it is lying to us again. Yeah, I'm liking that. He's got his gloves and his boots on. He joins the fine tradition of characters like Mickey Mouse who wear no pants. Oh no, Mickey wears pants. Donald does not wear pants. Donald Duck wears no pants. Minnie Mouse wears a skirt but no top. Mickey Mouse wears shorts but no top. Gloves but no shirt. So go figure. But now that you can see the coloring in here, I'm still thinking I might want to scratch build a rifle and maybe sling it around his back. That's just an odd pose. I'm sorry, but that's the pose that you can get out of this vinyl kit without a bunch of just soaking it in water and reposing it. That's just what you're left with. And I know it looks good from that angle. From that side, it looks wonderful. From that side, it looks wonderful. It's just and even dead on, it looks nice. It's just how it stands on his feet that kind of gives you that weirdness, and it doesn't get any better. Believe me, that is the optimal pose. I've tried it in different things before I glued the feet in fixed position, and that's pretty much it. So luckily, when I glue it down to the stand or the base, I can do a little bit of, maybe pitch him up a little bit like that. I can put some dirt under his feet to kind of raise him, maybe even something like that, where he's stepping up onto something. But there's just not a lot of latitude in the pose that you're given. Ironically, I can use a lot of the same materials that I used for the Lazarus kit, because I would not be surprised if they were not filmed in virtually the same spot in the Southern California desert. So I can take some of those skills into this, but you can really see now the contrast between the silver and the gray. I'll let this dry. I'm going to come back with one more highlight pass of very, very dry paint so that I'm hitting just the highest spots, and then I'm going to put some clear epoxy over the eyes to gloss those up good and well. Well, the mail gods have been fortunate to me today, and my ship has in fact come in, so I am going to start digging through these parts. It's a heavy beast, I'll tell you that right now, but this will be well, let me start pulling out some parts. Oh, my dear viewers, I just opened up the ship that came in the mail, and I've pulled out the pieces, and I am retroactively tired. I am tired just from looking at it. People often ask, you're going through these one-day projects and one-week builds, and that's fun and all, but don't you want to just sink your teeth into something that's going to take a long while? And I say, yeah, from time to time I do. Now, I do have a tendency to get bored easily, and I want to hurry through things. But then every once in a while, there's that kit that demands that you take some time. I can think of, 3 months it took to build my 66-inch Enterprise. I can think of the 2 months that it built, close to maybe even more than that. I have to go back and check, to build that Enterprise E. I got a project in the mail today that is going to be a painter's paradise that is not going to be all that complicated for lighting, but I'm going to have to build an armature for it, and it's the Grissom. There it is. Oh, it looks so cute when it's 1,000 scale, doesn't it? It's the ill-fated Grissom. That's not what I'm building. No! I'm building a studio scale Grissom from Larson Designs. And here is the bottom hull. That's the bottom of it. That is, and I can't even hold this up with one hand because it comes in 2 pieces. That's how big it is. But that is the bottom hull. this is going to be a while. It's going to require me to build an armature for it because it has no armature in it. Let me see if I can grab something. Well, here is one of the engines. Now, the engine has no fancy Bassard collector, no fancy blue lights on it. It's got a strobe and it's got a nav. And if I can get that in there, that's going to be enough, because the way the thing is designed, it's very hard to run wiring, because you know the top and the bottom don't really join up that well. But I want to show you something as a scale comparison. Here is the top. Here's the top. This is cast. Everything else is cast opaque. This is cast translucent, and the dome on the bottom is cast translucent because there are windows here that can be lit. Here is the entire 1000 scale sitting on the dome of the bigger one. Let me see if I can. Well, here's that same engine and the ship. If you take the comparison of the ship and just the engine, or the warp nacelle for it, this has no scale other than it is filming model scale. It's 24 inches, I think, by time this is the longest piece on it, and I'd have to get a measuring stick on it to see how long it is. It's going to take some work to get everything joined up and happy. And also, as I've said, it's gonna require some bits of internal bracing. This piece by itself, now I'm getting myself in trouble here because I've got everything else nice and laid out. Without getting out some scales, this piece here is heavy as sin. That is, sorry, those are blocks that are holding up these two very fragile ends from crushing, and I need to make sure that I am very careful with those. But this is a solid chunk. It's a solid chunk. Now, I wish I could tell already that I wish there were some channels put in here for wiring, and I'm going to have to probably put some channels in here for wiring and then cover them back over. But this is going to be a weeks-long, nay, months-long project. But it's going to, like I said, it's going to be a painter's paradise when it comes down to putting all the juicy details in. This is where the smaller dome goes, and if I don't run a bunch of independent lighting power sources to it, then I'm going to have to, if I want to use one power source, then I'm going to have to run wiring or conduit, and I don't want to run conduit. I think it might spoil some of the lines if I ran conduit, but if I conduit any other way, I'll run conduit. But that's it. This is amazing. This is, again, Larson Designs Grissom studio scale kit. There is no stand for this, and I won't be standing for the fact that there's no stand for it. So something is going to have to be devised, and that means woodworking / copper pipe. All of that could happen. I don't want to run. I know the filming model was, they had a pick point that was off to the side, a mounting point that way. I don't want, this is very heavy. Man, oh man, Chevette, that's very heavy. I'm wondering if that couldn't have been made as a shell. But I'm not going to kibitz now. I'm going to dig in and enjoy these parts. Oh, putting all this stuff back in the box and dealing with my 3 kits at hand is going to be a bit of a letdown. So yeah, I'm going to be playing with parts. I'm not going to start cleaning any of this up, and I guarantee you I will not be working on this in any great stretch until after Wonderfest. And, you know, who knows what joys I might bring back from Wonderfest. This could get usurped, but I doubt it. Because, like I said, nothing like spending the summer on a nice, long project. Okay, I've put away the Grissom for right now, although it is very, very close to the front of my mind right now. My head is just spinning over what I'm going to do. But I want to put the last pass of highlighting on the Laser Blast Alien here, and to do that I am pulling out the Tamiyas, because Tamiyas, you can get a real good dry brushing out of a Tamiya. And I'm just hitting the highest of the high points, trying not to do too much of a obvious brush stroke, you know, a directional thing. Trying to keep the brush moving, because you don't want to get, this is what on this organic skin at least, is a situation where you don't want to see a vertical, you know, it's the heavy vertical stroke. It's not like the same type of weathering or dry brushing you might do on a starship or something, where you're showing streaking weathering. That is very dependent on you doing a nice directional brush stroke. But here I am just making little circles, trying to catch those folds and the highlights on the folds here. Now I do want to be going against the grain. You see how the lines here are going horizontal on the neck? I do want to make sure that my highlighting is going against those or perpendicular to those and not along with them, because then you could end up filling in the creases between them, which is not your goal. Okay, I need to get more paint on the brush because I'm not getting enough result here, but I'm going to continue this around and then I'll show you how it finishes out. Okay, I'm starting to work on the base. I just took a piece of wood that I had on hand because I don't have enough gas to go out and start just a useless hunt at the hardware stores. It's basically better for me to look at what I've got on hand and work with that. I've got a piece of wood. I've rounded the edges over on it. I'm going to build up a rock, something like that, like a base. And I can probably do that with a nice little chunk of styrofoam. And as a matter of fact, I think I've got that right here. I could put something like that and start to build up a, I'll just take this top part off and use that as my basis to start building up some contours. Feel better? I just jumped in the shower, get ready to take off here in a minute, but yes, I'm going on my one trip for today, my one trip for errands, since gas is at a premium and I keep harping on that and I'm sorry. Working on adding some details back to the rifle here. These two sight, well, I purposely put them on crooked because, you know, stormtroopers can't hit the side of a barn. So there was some detail that had gotten broken off and some detail that was meant to be replicated with this hard cardboard, which is really nobody's friend when it comes to making a lasting model. So working on that. If you see, the Trooper is looking very good in his gloss. I need to put some silver highlights on those nozzles, on those little speaker nozzles there. I'll wash in the black to get inside the black grill there. But that's mostly done. I don't want to spray it with anything because then you ruin the white finish. I need to go into the chest area there and see if there's any detail that needs to get picked out there. But since so much of it is going to be covered with the gun, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend in there. Things around the elbows and knees and stuff like that I'm going to still work on, but I think he's mostly done. I might decide to find some sort of steady base that I can glue him down to. Bruce over here, Banner, is ironically, he was the first one started and I had so much of him done, but he may be the last one to get finished. Still need to work on his eyes and teeth. This guy is mostly done. I am going to start scratch building his weapon, but the base is outside with the first coat of texture on it. And that'll be cooking along pretty darn good. I got the gloss on his eyes. I think that looks good. I may want to put another coat of that on there to really make them pop. Alright, I've got the Laser Blast Alien on his rocky base, and I'm going to let that dry overnight. Let that white glue, which is the best thing for sticking everything down, but it is a very slow drying thing. So that's going to set up the rest of the night, and I'll come back to it tomorrow and put some greens on it and finish up, build the weapon that I'm going to put on there, kind of get him finished. The Stormtrooper rifle has got a coat of primer on it. That'll be ready for painting tomorrow and placement in his hands, and then he'll be done. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, and it's going to be the last work day on at least 2 of these projects. I'll certainly get him done today, and I know I'll get the Stormtrooper done today, so it's a question of whether Hulk will join the brigade or not. And son of a gun, I'm scratch building, and I'm having some fun making some weapons for... Actually, it's not... I don't believe it was a weapon so much as it was a metal detector for this guy. Picked up some reference pictures and looked at it, and it looked like it had a long bend over hood for you know, like a metal detector does when he's looking for the missing stone necklace that goes with the laser blast gun. And so I'm dipping into the parts box and some regular old stock tubes, and of course my favorite, the googly eyes, to come up with something. And I'm working on the staff of it now, which kind of has that gaffy stick bend to it. Looks like a metal detector, so I'm working on this, and then this is going to be the base for it, or the big body for it. And this is kind of modeled on the classic Trek phaser rifle, where it had the big coily tubes on the top of it. So this is going to end up being strapped to his back. I'm not going to try to put it in his hand or anything, because it isn't really gripping it like a pistol. The hand pose isn't really closed enough to have it around a handle. So I'll put a grip with a handle on it, but I think I'm going to sling it on his back. So I am looking at the size now. I spent yesterday and then a little bit of time this morning dressing up the base with some moss and some tiny stones and all of that. So we're looking at something like this. Now I got to cut the length of that down, but I want to put so that it's maybe hanging over his shoulder like that on a strap of some sort. So I'm building up the length of this, so I'm going to cut it to about there, I think, and find a way to affix it to the stock here. But I'm having fun with weaponry this morning, and alien instruments. Now the other thing that I've got going on here is say hello to my little friend Stormtrooper, and I've got some black paint on this morning that is still drying, but basically we're ready to glue that in once enough of it has dried to do that, and then I can touch up some gunmetal color and some other paint touch-ups there, and he'll be done. And so the other thing that I'm doing on this helmet is I wanted to put a gloss over some of the black, but not all of it. And I found that when I painted the clear over it, it was reactivating the flat black and smearing it. So I'm either going to have to paint it again with a clear or a glossy black, rather than just trying to put a clear coat over it, or just be a lot more careful with it. I don't know. The black, to me, a paint was being reactivated and basically smearing back off. So maybe now that it's had overnight to dry, it won't do that. But beyond that and some gloss white touch-ups, Stormtrooper is mostly done, which just leaves our big green, jolly green giant here for the final thing. But I want to go ahead and finish up this gun. Get it where it's in camera, Lou, thank you. I want to get this gun finished and at least get a flat coat or a sealer coat of primer on everything before I jump over to the other. I'm just bouncing back and forth. I also found some extra. This was from the derelict, Lost in Space derelict kit, but it's just such a nice 50s/60s thing that I want to use it somehow on this gun, or this metal detector. Hey, so I've got the gun. What do you think? Well, it's not really a gun. It's the metal detector. It's the sensor for the stone that they were looking for. And got the strap on it here, and a grip. It's not really a handle. I mean, it's a handle. It's not really a trigger. It's because this is not a gun, but it fits on with the strap just like it's supposed to. Slings over the shoulder, and gives some weight to this side of the kit, because you've got a lot of weight. You've got, well, maybe if I turned them around, you can see how you've got a lot of weight on this side, and I wanted to do something that would give a little bit of balance to that side. It looks like I'm going to have to adjust this strap to make it fit on his back better, something like that. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's get some primer on this and get ready to paint it Space Gun Silver, with some accents here and there, but pretty much Space Gun Silver. Well, take a look at this motley crew. Yes, we got all three finished in the span of 1 week. Of course, the Hulk had a running start, but even he is finished. Can't see him well against the green cloth there, but you can see I got his eyes and teeth and some glossy slobber. This is not your Avengers Smart Hulk. This is your basic man-beast Hulk, so he's a little bit more of a berserker there. And we've got the Alien number 2, not Mambo number 5, but Alien number 2 from Laser Blast. And I've got the detector strapped to his back. That turned out really nice for a scratch build. And like I said, I think it gives some balance going off that way, because the model very much wants to go that way. And the rocks on the base help. But yeah, he's all done now. And of course you got Big and Shiny here. Big and Shiny was the easiest thing to paint, because it was basically 2 colors, but it's all in the finish. That epoxy appliance paint, it's really all you need, because you want this glossy, shiny, you know, plasticky looking thing. So there you go. Not wild about the sculpt on it. There's some details that aren't quite right. I do like the semi-crouching pose, though. That's kind of nice. But you work with what you've got, and for a really old Horizon, no, I'm sorry, the Hulk is a Horizon kit. That's the Screaming kit, and for as old as that Screaming kit is, it does the trick. And I know the light is glaring off of him, so let me do a quick turnaround. I was thinking about putting it on a base of some sort, and I may yet still, just like an action figure base where you have a flat thing that it's glued down to keep its stability. But there you go. The decks are all clean for next week's project. And that's going to bring us to the end of what I'm calling a three-fer. It's a three-fer week. I got 3 figures done. 2 and a third, because the Hulk was way ahead of the other ones. But ironically, it was the last one I finished. So, got Wonderfest coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't know if I'm going to have time to squeeze another build in before then and get it completed. I desperately need to pull out what it is I'm going to bring and clean it off, dust it off, because some of it's a year old. I mean, given that there was no Wonderfest last year. So if it's something that I built within the last 2 years, it's eligible. And I don't know what that's going to be just yet, but I think I'm going to be spending the time between now and then pulling out things, cleaning them off, touching them up, making sure the wiring works, making sure the power still goes to them, and all of that. So if something else changes between now and then, I'll let you know. But I think And I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to give away the surprise of what I'm bringing. So I may not do it on camera. So I might start something completely off camera that's never going to go, or it's not going to go to Wonderfest this year. But it's not going to be, the big Grissom. Not going to start on that until I've rounded up some supplies. I need to check my lighting. I need to see what it is I'm going to light. I need to design some sort of armature for it, or a supported stand for it. Lots of stuff that's going to have to go with that. So that I can't even begin to think about that one until my mind is clear from Wonderfest. And I've got another big project. This late summer, it's going to be fun between the Grissom. I've got another big project that is a ship that I have built before. I will tell you that. I have built one before, but it was back before I was doing my weekly videos, so you won't have seen me do it step by step. And this thing I'm going to do a little bit different because I'm going to be using the factory lighting. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's going to be fun. Like I said, it's something I haven't done for a while, and I've gotten so much better at doing certain aspects since then that I can't wait to dig back into it. So until next week, when we'll find out together what that's going to be, if the rest of the parts come in for that, I might start that, because that's going to take a while, and I know that I'm not taking that to Wonderfest, so that may be something that I can kind of do officially while I'm doing the other stuff off the books, and getting ready for the big show. I hope to see you there. The excitement is building, like I say. So until then, you be good. You be good to each other. Go out and enjoy the sunshine, and hug your family. We had the mask restriction lifted today. That's great. If you've got your shots, get your shots. Get your shots, and then go out and live your life. So until next time, you be good. Do all the things I said. I'm not going to repeat it. And we'll see you here next week.